Beautiful people. Hi, Instagram. Hi, Facebook. And it automatically is Facebook and YouTube. So I'm going to say hi. Hello there. I'm just going to wait. Happy Monday. I'm going to be, going a little bit back and forth between the cameras. But thank you for coming on in the room, especially on this Monday. Yo, I have to start off by saying that I am so thankful to God for today because it is only through the grace of God that I am here today in this very moment. So it's been a day. I will say that, and I'm just very thankful to God. So it was a Monday, but I'm thankful. Yes, you caught me live. So chime in, and yeah, chime in. I'm real big on, like, I believe everybody adds value to these moments. You've been adding value, so I'm glad you're able to catch it live. We're going to get started. So it's been a day, but I had to get on here just because it's been pressing for me to talk today. So quite honestly, I do know what I want to talk about, but I want to actually do something different. I kind of want to take it slow today because I really want to marinate on this because this was like a huge pivotal moment for me. So again, let me introduce myself. My name is Nicole Nash. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. My specialties are in grief and trauma. And if you're watching this and you're catching it live, then you are right in the middle of our 30 days, 30 ways to level up your healing. And so we are on day 15. So we're halfway there, y'all. So I don't know how I feel about that because it's just been enlightening. It's been just wonderful. So I'm very excited. But I want to hello. I want to go over what this challenge is going to be. We are targeting trauma, y'all. So we've been talking about different trauma roots, trauma fruits. We've been talking about narratives. We've been going over as far as, people pleasing, perfectionism, all the different types of fruit that may show up. But I want to go a little bit deeper because this is really pressing on my heart tonight. Last week, I spoke about why being superwoman is selfish. And it's something that I felt the need to share. And so for tonight, if you're watching this or if you're catching the replay, and definitely if you're catching the replay in the comments, type in #replay. But for tonight, I want to go a little bit more in depth. And if you're watching this, I want to say this is going to benefit you if you find that you are a woman in leadership, you find that you are actually, you see levels of success in certain areas, but you're noticing that there's a lack in other areas. And I'm really wanting to go into depth about that, especially for tonight. And so last week I talked about how, quite honestly, being superwoman is selfish because it restricts you from receiving meeting your needs. It gives you this false perception. I feel like that, especially with the Miss Independent and being strong, that when those mentalities, when we entertain those type of mentalities, it usually means that our needs aren't getting met, and we're struggling, right? And also it impacts the very population you're sent to serve. So a lot of times when we have a giving heart, we want to pour, but with the misperception of thinking that you're the only one that can solve the problem, or you're the only one that can pour, you're actually impacting the people you're serving because they may not be getting the best, especially if you're constantly going and going, right? And so when we think of superwoman, y'all, for tonight, I do want to expound on that because I really want to get into this performance driven identity. And so what I do is I help women in leadership heal through traumatic roots. I help them overcome emotional wounds caused by traumatic events by shifting them from a performance driven or performance based identity to a performance based kind of motivation, but to actually identity, a healthy identity based performance or base identity. Or yes, identity driven motivation and purpose, right? And so I want to get into this, the concept of what I want to talk about tonight, which is why what I've noticed both personally and professionally, I have noticed one specific reason why, no matter how successful you are, businesswoman, leader in the home, leader at church, leader in medical field, whatever sphere of influence or mountain of influence God has placed you on, I have noticed one reason why peace always seems to elude you, even with a successful career. And so that's why I actually want to talk about tonight, if y'all let me have it. Hello there. If you let me have this space, I kind of want to go there. And so, one thing I've noticed is when it comes to success and when it comes to successful leaders and women in leadership, I want to say when it comes to your career, there is an element of performance. And that's my dog, y'all. He just gotta, I wish y'all could see him in his phone. Let me see if he can get out. He doesn't want to get out. Okay. When it comes to success in your career, it is about performance. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's a certain measurement that you're gonna have to, especially as a leader. And I'm gonna be real. I honestly feel sometimes when it comes to us as Black women, there's another level of expectation. Like we have higher bars to set. I'm just gonna go there and be real tonight, right? And so not only is there this level of expectation of success and kind of essentially having it all together, but you do get into the habit, especially when you see success, that there is a level of performance that you have to do. So I'm not going to negate that and I'm not going to minimize that. Yes, when it comes to even all aspects of your life, there's a level of performance that has to be had, right? But here's the thing I've really found out is the reason why a lot of times we as women in leadership struggle with peace and why peace always eludes us is because while we see success in our career, which is performance, the thing is in your other areas, you actually don't have to perform. The very key to experiencing peace is you actually don't have to perform. But here's the thing when you're used to, especially when these expectations are set on you and you feel like you have to be a good role model, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the message, the mixed messages that we're sending by always being in this constant state of performance, of do, right? When God actually shared with me the antidote, the actual cure, the key actually to experience peace, especially in your other areas. And when I talk about your other areas, y'all, I'm talking about your social, your family, your spiritual relationships, or your spiritual relationship with God, the community, even in your career, whether it's you're working or you're in academia, the key to actually really experiencing peace is actually not by what we do, but it's who we are. We have to shift from a do to a be. And God shared with me that is actually the key to seeing the fullness. So I want to go there tonight, if y'all don't mind. I want to talk about that because this has been my personal testimony. And this has actually been something I've witnessed across the board by so many phenomenal women killing the game, but they're unhappy and they lack peace. Okay. And so, one thing I want to say why it's so important to begin shifting our mentality from a do, a performance, to a be, meaning my identity, my worth is good enough and I'm worthy just because I am. The reason why this is key, I want to break this down, is because if you were to actually shift from a do to a be, y'all, remember how we talk about narratives? And when the traumatic seeds get planted, and because of that traumatic event, we begin to believe something about the event, but also we begin to create this narrative about ourselves, who we think we are because of the event. The thing is, a lot of times, performance is trauma induced, is trauma response. And the only thing that a trauma response continues to do is perpetuate the lie, the false narrative, that in order to be worthy, I have to do. And here's the thing, the moment you determine that you want to switch into being, this is when I say, even I'm like, I'm a nerd, I'm a scientist. This is when you actually can do some experimentation to see, are these things that we're believing, these narratives believing, actually accurate? So I want to break down because, like, how can be, meaning knowing and standing in your worth, knowing that you are enough without having to do absolutely anything, how that can actually improve different areas of your life domains. So let's start with social. So here's the thing, and I want to toss to you. If you find yourself performing in your relationships, you're constantly showing up for people, You're pouring into people, which I want to say is actually part of any healthy relationship servitude. We're called to serve, right? But when we serve at either to the detriment of our health, our sanity, and our peace, there's something wrong with that. I talked about people pleasing. I had a root of people pleasing, right? And that's something that actually comes up, especially as a trauma response, right? But here's the thing, for my performers out there, I want to ask you this. What is it that's driving you to continually do? What would happen if you stop? What narratives would come up if you were to stop doing? Not to be selfish, y'all, but to actually be present in the moment, trusting and knowing that the right people love you for exactly who you are and not what you do for them. So here's the thing about in your social area when we talk about actually shifting from performance based to actually just self-worth and identity based, right? When you have a healthy sense of identity, is you may find that when you stop performing, it dispels the myth that you were only worthy by what you could do, what you could give. And I want to preface this with the right people. The people that God sends your way, y'all, I promise you, it would dispel the myth that you have to perform for love. This was something that was part of my journey. This is something that I encourage my clients is to fall back a little bit, not out of selfishness, but if you're worried that person's going to leave you, the very way you can test out that hypothesis is just to show up and be authentically you and see what happens. Again, shifting from a performance worth to an identity worth. The next thing in your work in academics, by shifting from a performance, even though I said, right, we have to perform, we have to do, right? There's some outcomes, especially as a leader, there's measurements and standards that you have to set in place. But even by shifting from a performance identity to an just a healthy self-worth type of identity, you will find that your identity actually drives your role because you know who you are. So not only are you going to continue to be successful, not only are you going to continue to like let's set the bar. I'm going to be real because you have high standards and you're more than likely good at what you do, right? But when you shift from a do to actually a be an identity, you actually drive better performance because you understand that again, there's no imposter syndrome because what you bring to the table is your authentic self, full of flaws that you're working on, but full of strengths, full of gold, your unique gold that God has actually deposited in you that no one can touch. And you actually model this for your people as well. But let's get down to the next one because we talk about health. And here's the thing, I want to ask you this to all my performers. Why do you struggle to even sit still? If I were to take 5 minutes, one of the things I love doing with my clients because it tells me so much. I take 5 minutes and I get them to sit in absolute stillness. They either love it or hate it. To my performers out there, why is it so hard to sit still? Why is it so hard that when you're actually getting much needed rest, you feel guilty? You feel like there's always something you could be doing. Why do you shame yourself for those moments? What is the narrative you're telling to yourself about actually getting much needed rest, about pouring into yourself, about actually saying no to someone? I'll pass. Maybe next week. I can't do that right now. What is it about actually setting boundaries that you struggle with? Here's the thing. It is not humanly possible for us to constantly be in a state of go, go, go. Grind mindset is one of the most unhealthiest things, but we adapt to it, especially as women in leadership, because we think if we're always on the go, that means we're really important. Not understanding that you were already important before you were in your mother's womb, right? Let's go on to the next one. When it comes to just being, when it comes to just showing up and just being yourself and knowing that that's enough within your family, because again, you may be a leader of your family. You also have family and loved ones. But here's the thing, by you actually showing up authentically as yourself, refusing to do, but actually be, you actually can model behaviors and mindsets for others in your family. I'll go with this. I love my mother, love my mother, but I struggle with people pleasing because my mother struggled with people pleasing. I struggle with perfectionism because my mother struggled with perfectionism, and that was passed down. So we talk about generational and intergenerational trauma. That was intergenerational trauma in my hands because with my mother, and again, like in the state I am, I knew she did the best she could. But after I was aware of what was going on, I was like, I'm not bringing this down. I'm not passing this down to the next generation. I had to shift, but it was always a struggle. And now, what I am very honored, very privileged to do is I model to my mom. It's like the child is sometimes is modeling for the parent, but I get to show my mother and other people the fact that it's okay to not have to perform. And I don't have to perform for the right people. That's one thing I say over and over, like, you're going to make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect. And when you make a mistake, it's okay. We talk about it. That was something I had to learn and I had to model. It wasn't taught to me, right? But let's go to the next one. We're going to go into community. That's another life domain, right? You want to make impacts in your community. You got ideas. You're a citizen in your country, in this country, right? And you want to make a difference, and you just want to contribute, at least be a law-abiding citizen, abiding a citizen, right? But here's the thing: stillness, authenticity invites creativity. So I'm not going to go much into the hierarchy of needs. If you go to my 9 fruits, you see I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs all the time because I'm such a huge proponent of it, right? But right at the very tier is what we have self-actualization. That's the person who is operating fully in their lane. They know exactly who they are. They're impacting lives. They're influencing generations. They are authentically themselves. They're comfortable in the skin they're in. They know they're worthy. They know they're loved, and they know they belong, right? It's actually in that self actualization tier, the top tier, where we find creativity. Meaning, if the other needs aren't met, you're going to be lacking in some shape or form in creativity. And you need creativity for your community to problem solve. You need creativity to explore. You need creativity to contribute to your community, right? But creativity happens when you rest, when you're still. And that happens when you are confident that you don't have to do in order to be worthy. So, what I want you all to do for tonight, I really want you to identify if you're struggling. I want you to be real with yourself. We got it, right? Change doesn't happen without accountability. If you are struggling with performance, I want you to ask yourself what narratives are reaffirming that you have to perform. What lies are being told to you that you believe that you have to perform, you have to do in order to be considered worthy? Because I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The devil is a liar, and that's a bold, I'm about to that is a bold a lie. That's a bold-faced lie, right? So what I wanted to share with you all tonight, I really want you to slow down. I want you all to identify the benefits of what could come in all your domains. That is your social, your mental health, your physical health, your spirituality, your friends, your community, your family. I want you to identify what the benefits could be if you were actually to shift from being superwoman just to being worthy on your own without having to do anything. That's all I wanted to do tonight. Okay. Because I promise you, what God shared is when we begin to shift from a do to a be, that's when He actually can use us. We're fearfully and wonderfully created, right? Right? And we don't have to do. And one thing God shared with me as I was working on my relationship with Him is because I was doing a performance with God, I'll be real. And God was saying, it's never going to be enough. If you continue to go by your own actions as if Jesus wasn't enough, if you do not believe that you are already worthy because I created you, then what you're offering, God said, is never going to be enough if you go that route. And so I said, oh, Lord, no. So I want to leave y'all with this for tonight. I hope it does y'all some good. But it's day 15. I'm after the Ruths. I'm after the Esthers and the Deborahs, and I'm after the female Moses. Because in order to break generational and intergenerational cycles of trauma, you have to shift and do something differently. And maybe that different for you is not actually doing, but being. So I'm going to leave that with you all tonight. Tomorrow we're going to keep going. I got some things I'm going to share. Stay tuned because I'm going to pitch out my email list because I have some good stuff about to come down the pipeline. And yeah, we'll just take it from there. So alrighty then, y'all. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. All right, bye. And as always, YouTube, it's been a pleasure. Bye and God bless.